Okay. Yep. Oh, great. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Nice to see you all. Welcome to the Arts, Culture, Education, and Schools Committee, Tuesday, November 19th. We have a hybrid policy at Community Board 4. It can be found on our website. Board members are expected to attend meetings in person unless they have a disability or an extraordinary circumstance. Excused members and members of the public will still be able to participate virtually. Members who are joining via Zoom must leave their cameras on. And this meeting is being streamed live on our YouTube channel and a transcript is being recorded. So welcome again. As you'll see, we have a few items on our agenda. We are anticipating someone from the public session, but if they are not here, we might come back to them once they join a little later. But otherwise, I don't see anyone else from the public at this point. So I think we can jump right to our second agenda item, which is a presentation by Jazz Generation. So, is that Rob? Yeah. Hi, Rob. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Huh?
Sorry, the lighting was horrible. I didn't know how bad.
Yes. I don't think we can hear you, but we'll. You try.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you. Hi, Rob.
Thank you very much, Jesse, for inviting us. And is Christina Kulik by any chance in the audience currently as well?
She is not.
Okay, then I'll just present by myself.
Yeah, no, she's not around there.
So thank you all for listening, and it's an exciting prospect to just introduce ourselves, and really with no goal in mind, but just to I really want to further the work of our organization, and Jesse's been so kind to invite me here today. So I work for Jazz Generation. This is a nonprofit organization that was basically started in 1998, although we were with a fiscal sponsor until roughly 10 years ago. Brief history is that our founder started the jazz club called Jazz Standard. Maybe some of you have been there. It's called Jazz Standard and Blue Smoke. Danny Meyer operated the restaurant portion. And so it was an iconic jazz club that closed down during the pandemic, unfortunately. But we opened in 1997. And James immediately wanted to, instead of just making a smoke-filled nightclub for tourists and jazz lovers, he wanted to make a community-based place where families could also somehow get involved with the music, expose the music to young children, essentially creating the musicians and audience members of tomorrow. So in doing, in trying to do that, he created two youth programs. One is called the Jazz Standard Youth Orchestra, and more pertinent to this panel is the Jazz Discovery Program. So that's where essentially about 10 classes or 10 sessions per semester were invited down to the jazz club. They took field trips to the club to enjoy music for the first time. The children were school age, kindergarten through high school, actually. Our target age is more like middle schools, but we certainly made exceptions, especially schools that were showing, either promise or great interest and had the organizational skills to get together. We invited them down to the club. And so essentially for 25 years now, we've done about 10 sessions per semester, about 50 to 80 kids, kind of depending on, how many kids were involved with each session. But you figure between about 25,000 and 30,000 New York City school children have benefited from this program in the last 25 years, which is pretty incredible. And if I can I show a brief video to you all about, about what we do? It might explain better than my babbling.
That'd be great.
All right, let me bring something up here, and let me share sound and optimize sound. Okay, is that working?
You see your screen? I don't know if you're playing.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. As long as you see the screen, good. So here we go.
Occasionally, a classroom to students from all over the city, like these youngsters from PS 316 in Brooklyn. They're taking part in the Jazz Standard Discovery Program. It's free, and it's run by David O'Rourke, program coordinator, and James Polsky, the club's owner.
During the day, when we have no bands, we invite kids from schools to come down, get them introduced to jazz, get them out of school, get them hearing music in a club, which seems to involve them more than just hearing it in a classroom.
The idea began 3 years ago, and today James and David play host to some 80 children a few times a month.
We rent the school buses for them. We pick them up. We bring them down to the club. They go down. We turn the lights down. It's like they're going into a club atmosphere. Then the music plays, and then they're allowed to ask questions.
Can we sing?
Can you sing? We try to get them involved, try to get them interested, not make it academic, make it fun.
The classes are about 2 hours long. David and James say it's easy to find musicians who want to participate, but getting schools involved is their biggest challenge.
The goal is really just to let the kids hear music, and you need a teacher who's interested enough to go and get permission slips, and so it's a teacher who's not worried about taking on some extra paperwork to give the kids something special.
The musicians are professionals who perform all over. So how does this morning audience differ from their usual night crowds?
Some of them listen, and most of them don't.
The saxophone was invented in the late 1800s.
It's fine though, because the one or two that you touch or that you get their attention, that's one or two that'll, be buying records or playing music themselves.
I get excited seeing the looks on kids' faces when the music moves them. And no, it's not about money, but I also believe we're building an audience for tomorrow.
Gonna come back and see us again sometime?
Okay. So, yeah, you can get the picture there, and thank you for watching. So that was historically how our organization was operating. And now, because the club closed during the pandemic, it has made us move into the school systems, right? So we are working on reopening our club, but for the last couple of years, we've been visiting schools, which, believe it or not, is even more work because we have to, essentially infiltrate, for lack of a better word, a school system, talk to the principals, organize with teachers, and those are some of the challenges that we have. If I'm not boring anyone, I can show a 1-minute video about what our new program looks like. Can I do that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
We're celebrating 25 years of our program, so we love bringing music to young people. How is jazz created?
This is the biggest of the string family. This is the double bass. What's it called?
That's the second line beat that originated from New Orleans.
Into the mouthpiece and then to the trumpet, and then I can make musical notes like this.
Okay. So thank you again for this time. What the reason why I'm here is just to make connections and share about our program. We hope to get funding, we hope to make friends, we hope to maybe find new schools in your community board that might be interested. And so certainly I can share more info with anyone that's more interested, and thank you again. If there's any questions, or this is my first time doing this, so I hope that that it was okay. And if there's any questions, and otherwise, I leave it to you to take it away.
Thanks, Rob. You did great for your first time. Thank you again for being here. I played stand-up bass in elementary school and was in a jazz ensemble, so yeah. Love. Wow. Talents.
I'm also a stand-up bassist, actually. So,
Very cool.
so we're both stand-up guys. I'm sure.
So yeah, I think we'll just take questions from the committee if anyone has any. Katie?
I'm just wondering, thanks, that is a very fun presentation. It sounds like you guys are doing good work. I'm just wondering, like, how do you advertise, or like, how have you gotten into the schools recently in the last year or two? Is it just like the same schools you're going to, or do you have some sort of outreach program?
Yeah, great question. And in fact, it's something that I've wanted help with, and we are founded and run by all musicians. A lot of us teach and have students and have friends who are teaching in the school system. So luckily we do have a lot of connections, but we want more, so we want to especially reach schools that need it more. You know what I mean? So we are not really advertising per se in magazines or anything. We're really a word of mouth organization. Certainly, at least this program. We have 3 programs in our organization called Jazz Generation. jazzgeneration.org is our website. You can certainly see more about our programs. But we're pretty nimble. There's only 3 employees. And then we have a ton of subcontractors, obviously all of our musicians, which we subcontract more than 2,000 per year to teach the students, to perform in mom and pop shops around all 5 boroughs and beyond. But yeah, in terms of like actual marketing or trying to get out, I believe I wrote to a school board only like last year. Did we ever start having issues where we're like, wait, how are we going to reach these schools? Because one school used to come, and then they would rave about their experience to another school. Then they would come by, and we were fielding phone call. We couldn't even take as many schools as we could when we had the club. Now it's a little more of a challenge to get to the schools that are organized enough again to like let us come in.
Yeah. And then I forget the name of it, but I know that there's like at least in the middle school, there's a sort of a state music program that a lot of schools send their like school orchestras to or whatever. I'm just wondering, is there any kind of, I don't know, do you have any interactions or connections with the middle school sort of organized music programs or that state competition? I'm just wondering if they know about you guys.
Yeah, so good question. I think that for this program, a lot of the schools, or I would estimate around 50%, don't even have music programs. Wow. So in fact, those are kind of our target schools. Like we want to share and bring music to the schools that do not have it, more underprivileged schools. And as you know, even some of the schools that we used to go to, they canceled their music programs, and then it's like the first to go. Our other program, that would probably be more pertinent to our other program, which is called the Jazz Standard Youth Orchestra, and that's the second step where the kids actually study with our greats and our mentors. But yes, we shall look into more of these committees or state organizations, and me being here today is kind of one of our first steps in doing so.
Oh, great. Well, thanks.
Any other questions from committee members?
This is actually a question for you and Josephine. I mean, we've had a lot of school-oriented organizations, come and present to get visibility within our school system. I mean, is there, like a hub, an information hub, whether it's on our CB4 website or like a community contact within, like our supers, organization or
great question. We have been talking about for a while doing some kind of newsletter. But we never really, takes a lot of time to do, so it's something that we haven't been able to do. But yeah, you're right, we have a lot of people who come here and would like to have more visibility, but, school, the principals, the parent coordinators, they're inundated with this kind of information all the time. So that's something that we can go back to looking at if anybody wants to volunteer some of their time to possibly do something like that. And then maybe there's like one MCB4 newsletter that we could just send out to the schools like once a month. And kind of.
Or even quarterly.
Yeah,
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
That's a good
yeah.
idea Too, so, certainly we can talk about that. Thanks for bringing that up.
Just a quick question, is the PTA a better access point for these or the administrator, you would say? Like in-
Probably the PTA.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, administrators aren't really going to, be able to do much, yeah.
Rob, one question. Do you know if are you in any schools in Chelsea or Hell's Kitchen?
Off the top of my head, we only have, I know we're going to be in Stuyt. The short answer is no this semester. But certainly if you have any connections, maybe we can do a couple in the spring semester. We can plan some. We're happy to do so. That would be awesome.
Okay, great. Yeah, we should stay in touch. I think getting your information out among sort of like the listserv and the network that the community board has. We could do, if there are events that you do outside of the school, like in the community, keep us updated on that, because if it's a free show and you've got kids performing, I think we would be happy to circulate that and get the word out. So you should stay in touch with any upcoming events that your kids might be doing.
We do have one question, I believe, from the online.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, do you want to go?
Aha.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, hi.
Rob, I'm Mike Freeman. I'm a band leader and producer. I went through your website and checked it out. It sounds like a great organization. One of the questions I have is the website mentions Keyed Up, and I got the sense that it worked with musicians and venues. Is that not the case? It looked like you were subsidizing, the organization was subsidizing musicians' fees at venues.
That's true. That is our third and newest program. We have three with the umbrella organizations called Jazz Generation. And then we basically take musicians and audiences through the generations and through the steps of music. So the one I was talking about today, most pertinent to this committee, is the Jazz Discovery Program, whereas the kids are exposed to the music in most cases for the first time ever. Then the Jazz Standard Youth Orchestra is our second program, where the kids start studying on a regular basis. That's currently operating in Brooklyn at the jazz club called Ornithology, and they meet on Saturdays and study with mentors. Then once they graduate college, it's kind of like, well, what are we going to do? We're jazz musicians. There's no work. That's where Keyed Up, that's our third program. We're in 32 venues. Actually, pertinent to this committee is there's 3 inside of Community Board 4, Chelsea and Hudson Yards and Midtown West. So anyways, yeah, you're exactly right. Keyed Up is a separate program, but is under our umbrella. And I'm the chief operating officer for all 3 programs, essentially.
So how are the artists that you're using for this program selected, or the venues? Do you select the venues and then bring in an artist, or do you select artists and find venues? How does that work?
Basically, musicians write proposals to Keyed Up, info@keyedup.org, and they would write a detailed proposal for why they need charitable funds to perform at a local mom and pop shop. Basically, our goal is to help musicians, but our impact is multifold So we don't subsidize jazz clubs because we don't want to like shoot ourselves in the foot. So what we want to do is find diverse mom and pop shops in diverse communities, kind of outside of the city. We what we want is to expand access to music, and so essentially musicians and or venue owners that say we love jazz, we want to promote and promulgate jazz at our venues. They would write a detailed proposal. They say, listen, we only have $200 per week to pay a trio or a quartet. Can you help out a little more, or do you have any strategies for us to for how to get involved? Essentially a detailed proposal. We have a piano, but we don't have drums. We have this, and we want to present this type of music. And essentially, we have an enormous wait list, unfortunately, because we don't have as much funding as we'd like. But we currently sponsor 32 venues or 32 gigs per week that are free to the public in all 5 boroughs and beyond, New Jersey, Long Island, even Boston, and we're trying to expand. So that's kind of a basic gist, Mr. Freeman.
Okay, thank you for the information. Maybe we can be in touch further down the road.
For sure.
Thanks.
Thank you for your question.
Great, well, thank you again, Rob, for coming. Let's stay in touch. It's great to know about Jazz Generation, what you all do. Keep up the great work. And if there's opportunities to help get the word out about your student performers, we would be happy to do that.
Greatly appreciate your time, everyone. I hope you have a good session and a happy holiday season.
Thank you.
Ciao, ciao.
No, we got it. So,
Great.
yeah, do you want to?
So our next week, I've sort of switched around. We have a parent from PS11 who is here to talk about the closing of Ryan Clinic at PS11. There was a site there, it was recently closed. They still didn't have a whole lot of information about what had happened. And Matt and I were on a call with them today, with someone from Ryan. So we'll have more answers, but first I just want to hear from Kara, from her perspective, you know, what this, you know, the loss of this clinic means to that community. So hi, Kara, thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Hi, thanks for having me, and sorry I was late, and I appreciate, you know, the invitation to talk about such an important issue for kids in the community. So just to make this very brief, the Ryan Center has been at PS11, where my daughter goes to school, for approximately 20 years. And they did a presentation at the beginning of the year talking about their services, and historically have provided immunizations, prescriptions, mental health services, a lot of services that a lot of the kids at the school need. Just for context, about 40 some odd % of PS11 is, I guess, ENI, which is like economic need, which means kind of about likely to be at the poverty level, at or below the poverty level. So clearly there's also a need, real need for healthcare, not to mention that there's been, at least in prior years, an influx of migrant families as well, in addition to the families that are homeless or unhoused or near homeless. So in any case, as of last month, there were starting to be rumors flying that the Ryan Center was shutting down. And thanks to Councilmember Bottcher's office, Senator Brad Hoylman, like they began to look into it because PS11 really got no information, and they heard basically through the grapevine that this was happening. And in fact, the principal said public, like at PTA meetings and in written communications, that basically he got no information from the Ryan Center. So it has been a real challenge that the school is now officially, we understand, pulling out December 13th. So at the end of this part of the semester, I will say that we have an agency nurse who I've been told is fantastic and is doing a great job and definitely filling in some of those gaps, but we don't know how long she's going to stay. And also she doesn't have the ability, I believe, to write prescriptions, do a lot of the things that the Ryan Center team was able to do. So I just wanted to come and express, highlight this issue and raise the broader issue, which is where the Ryan Center is obviously leaving. We can't do anything about that, but we do want everyone to know the need of having a CBHC, school-based health center, and that we are looking for new partnerships. This is incredibly important to us. And we have started talking, at least poking around, talking to health organizations, but the school feels really strongly about ensuring that kids get access to care. We all know that, especially with the new Trump administration, with fear about, immigration, underserved communities not being served as well, that this is more important than ever. So we're really enthusiastic about the idea of continuing care. Now we're shooting for next September because it's just not feasible to get things done before that point, unfortunately, or that's the likelihood given the various processes to doing this.
Wow, okay, I'm really glad to hear that you're looking at other partnerships. I can go into a little bit of background, but first, does anybody have any questions for her, or should I just talk about what we learned today?
If you can talk about what
Yes,
you learned
okay.
today, and then maybe that'll help us,
So, first of all, Kara, first and foremost, the Ryan Center is, they're very upset that they had to close that location. It's very special to them. It's something that they completely did not want to do. But they are facing a $14 million deficit in 2025 in view of their books. They lost COVID funding, and also the demographics of that school have changed in the last 20 years since they've been there. So 20 years ago, it was about 60 to 70% students that were very low income and qualified for Medicaid. And now that number has changed, right? So it's more like 30 to 40%, it's a reversal. So they can't really afford to be there right now. And they actually have 7 schools that they were currently in, but because of this large deficit, I think they've had to pull out 5, and PS11 being one of those schools. So they also had to lay off 100 people. I mean, this has been a very big ordeal for them as well. So I feel that, I know they felt bad about kind of the way this whole thing played out. But we did have a conversation about some of the issues that we're seeing. We have a school at PS33, which is a neighboring school, and they may be able to qualify for a Ryan site at their location, not only because of the school population, but also because of the possible demolition of the NYCHA complex, all the health issues that may come along with that, the mental health issues that may come along with that. So that's a possibility, but you're right, they are closing the site at PS11 in December, and they do have a full-time nurse, but however, as Kara says, she cannot write prescriptions or give mental health services or vaccinations, I don't believe, that kind of thing. So it is a big loss for the community, no doubt about it. But we want to do whatever we can to keep Ryan in the Chelsea area, because I think we're gonna need it. So do you want to add something to that?
I mean, I think that summarizes our conversation with Michael from Ryan Health. It sounded like a next step for him was connecting with PS33 to see, if that's a possibility. I think in the context of the NYCHA redevelopment, we did put together sort of our wish list of things to be studied and looked at. So perhaps there's something that we could continue to advocate for in terms of health services for students in the area in response to that redevelopment plan. But this is like the initial start of this conversation. We're sort of catching up a little bit. I also want to acknowledge, before we get to committee questions, I saw that Carl Wilson was here from Councilmember Bottcher's office. As Kara said, their office has been involved in this. So Carl, did you want to say a few words? And then we'll turn it over to any questions from the committee.
Hi, everyone. So my hand was up, but I put it up right before Josephine gave a very great recap and some background on the problem. But yeah, just, we were also looped into this conversation about a month ago, suddenly, and learned about the $14 million deficit that Ryan is operating under, and have been in some of these conversations where we're discussing this painful option of removing PS11. But I think too, and maybe the board can, you all can decide if you want to do this or not. But it might be worth having Ryan come to the board and sort of talk about what some of these cuts and changes mean for the community and how that could fit into something like a district needs ask or something like that we could, of course, consider during our budget process, as well as the other possible avenues that Matt suggested. So we're in close contact with the PTA and the principal at PS11. As Kara mentioned, there is now a full-time nurse there at our insistence. That was not there before, so there is coverage here and a consistent nurse that we understand will be there permanently, full-time. So happy to stay in touch with the board, obviously, and our parent community as this continues, but definitely always painful to lose a service at the school, but we want to continue to work with Ryan to make sure that they continue to exist and how can we best fit them into their community given their financial constraints. So appreciate everyone's attention on this and happy to have further conversations with anybody on the board or any parent that comes to you all about this.
Thanks, Carl. So I guess we'll see if the committee members have any questions for Kara or Carl, and we can talk about inviting Ryan Health here at some point. But we wanted to make sure that we were at least briefed a bit on the situation.
So Ryan Health did come speak to HHHS just, I don't know, 2 months ago or something. And we were specifically asking them about their, any requests for funding that we could include. And I will say that they didn't mention this. They told us some other things, but I think, as you say, they're facing such a big deficit right now that there are so many needs that, they were trying to sort of focus on a couple. So, and one thing I guess I'm just sort of trying to understand is like, I know at most public schools, there isn't an in-place on-site health program. And I certainly understand Ryan Health saying that if they can only have 2 instead of 7 or however many they have, that they're likely to prioritize the ones that have larger percentages, right, of economic need for Title I students or whatever. So I guess I'm just wondering, and look, I certainly understand as a parent of kids who went to public school, that I assume the rules are the same now as when my kids were there a little while ago, but I mean, bless the school nurses, but they basically can't do anything. I mean, other than say how very sorry they are that the child isn't feeling well and call the parent. But like they can't prescribe, I mean, not just prescribe medicine, I think that they can't give medicine unless there's all sorts of complicated forms filled out ahead of time. So it's a huge shift for what these parents are now facing in the school, but I guess I'm trying to understand. I assume that Ryan Health at their regular clinics here in the district would vaccinate students, or so instead of, right? So is it, I assume that the services are still available.
Right, yes.
It's just not on site. But I
Exactly.
guess I wonder, is there a capacity issue? Like I totally get that it's an extra step now families have to do. But do we know if the current sites have capacity to then see kids, and the hours to see kids after school or whatever? Do we know if that's an issue?
I don't think it is an issue. So the current site, so they operate the Ryan Clinton in Hell's Kitchen on 10th Avenue. And then they also still have one school-based center at Park West High School, also in Hell's Kitchen. So they're continuing to operate that location as well. Capacity didn't come up. It seemed to be purely a financial issue in terms of operating at a deficit and unable to continue operations without putting the whole organization at risk.
But I will say that just a few comments based on what everyone's saying. First of all, I mean, and I should say I'm a healthcare lobbyist. I worked at DOHMH years ago. One thing that I guess I find curious is how you go from starting a school year with a clinic making assurances to all of a sudden, oops, we have this deficit. And even if the payer mix of uninsured or Medicaid and private insurance has changed over 20 years, why, I mean, it's not a big surprise. The PS11 population doesn't take such dramatic shifts year to year. And just so you know, for future partnerships, I mean, one thing that the PTA has discussed is advocating, whether it be asking elected officials for money, whether it be fundraising. They also want to help in any way that they can, even if it's about more aggressively recouping costs for the students that are on Medicaid or private insurance. I don't know how active the Ryan Center was with doing that, but some of it is also, whether it's PS33 or elsewhere, that these things take time. I believe both the state DOH and DOHMH both have a part in an approval process. And also that because there's still a mental health stigma and a lot of families work, it is so much easier for families to be at the school. There's a comfort level, particularly for those with different immigration statuses, so to speak. So there's a lot of different reasons that although there are other locations, and I appreciate, that finances are finances, it does seem like an abrupt and unfortunate change. And I know that the Ryan Center has been doing immunizations, done things with EpiPens. Granted, they probably had permission, but it's not just that, and I understand a lot of times it is, well, just you have a fever, call the mom or parent, and they show up. But they were doing more than that, and particularly on the mental health side. So as Carl was saying, Councilmember Botcher, first of all, has kept us really informed and been really helpful, because we started to hear rumors, and Councilmember Botcher was the one who really then actively started looking into it and finding the information. And it's really unfortunate, because with our next partner, we really want this to be more transparent, really kind of look realistically about what makes us a good partner, lucrative. We have a full facility. We have the space. So it's just a shame that things worked out like this, but, just also wanted to make those points clear, and that, we're aware that, we want to make the numbers work for a partner that really wants to help kids with their healthcare.
The only thing I could say to that, Cara, is that they had explained to us that they hired a new CFO, I guess, at the beginning of the summer. And by the end of the summer is when, you'd gone through the books and said, this is what's happening. So, yeah, totally blindsided. I can't really speak to what happened before that. I mean, as you say, it seems like there should have been signs or something. But that's how it was explained to us.
They also indicated that there was COVID money that was no longer available to them, which has been a critical piece of their financial issues.
Sure. And I think a lot of organizations have gotten COVID funding and have struggled, but it's just some of this was somewhat predictable, or like if you can't make it through the school year, I think that's when perhaps you should talk to the school and have an honest conversation about what it would look like. And the COVID stuff, I mean, some of these funding streams shouldn't be news, whether there's again, this is not really important. I mean, this is what's happening, whether, however transparent they were, but, it's just been a bit puzzling. So, just for the sake of having them in other schools, it might benefit you all to make sure that this won't happen again when, PS33 has a different payer mix, or they lose additional federal funding, because it's really unfortunate. But like I said, PS11, first of all, I guess representing PS11, the families are thrilled that you all wanted to speak tonight. And, we're willing, if there's some way, to access care elsewhere, at least for the moment, we're happy to do that. And as Carl also mentioned, about the nurse, it is unfortunate. We don't know how long she's able to stay. We would love her to stay. People really like her, but I don't believe that's fully in our control. So.
Carl, do you know anything about that? Because I believe that the nurse is city funded. So how long is her position?
So I'm just pulling through, but just looking through some. That's my understanding was that this was a permanent change. Now you're making me nervous about that. But I thought that I understood it to be a permanent change to have a full-time nurse on staff. Now I don't know if that means consistently the same person. I know in the previous arrangement it had not been consistent, but that was a detail that we stressed as being important to the Office of School Health. So I'm happy to dig into that a little bit more and talk to about the permanent piece and about it being the same person. But we understood a full-time nurse to be on site going forward.
So I could be misspeaking. It might be that it's a full-time person, but I believe we're certainly not totally sure. Well, we've wanted the same person and she has been the same nurse consistently available. I think there's ongoing concerns about what the future holds. And I think, thanks to Carl and the council member, it's been more consistent than perhaps it would have been otherwise, but we just want to make sure that that continues. Obviously, a lot of healthcare, particularly with children, is about the trust, particularly if you're talking about mental health and other sensitive issues, or kids who haven't interacted with the healthcare system that are coming from elsewhere. That's really important. So we are very grateful to have a nurse. It's a win for us, but we know that there's a lot more need that has been that there are a lot more needs of the kids, and we want to meet that need. So
yeah, we'll definitely relay that message. I mean, you're right. I mean, and they even said communication could have been a lot better. So, but certainly if we move into any other partnership with any other school, then that certainly is something that we'll bring up for sure.
Hello, did you have a question?
Yeah, I think in terms of sort of like the stopgap now, or like, what do the kids that don't have preventative care, like the vaccinations, where do they go now?
Well, they could still see with the Ryan Clinic, but they would have to go just not on site.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
travel to go somewhere. Yeah.
And Ryan is there, I guess, for another month. I don't know what capacity looks like, or they're officially shutting down then. I don't know if there's actually any any presence still on site, but it's a real issue. I mean, that's the other thing. There wasn't really a warm handoff, which is, to your point, it's a little bit confusing, and there hasn't been a lot of clear communication about, okay, we're closing here, please send your kids there. And so that's also been a bit complicated. It's made it worse, frankly. So, and by the way, my daughter's a reporter for the PS11 Post, the Ryan Center. Michael Fagan has agreed to speak with her, and she did send written questions. So I will say that they at least are, trying to communicate with us to some degree. But I would not say the PS11 Post should be our main source of information. I mean, so direct information. So, but yeah.
I love the PS11 Post. It's local news. Yeah, it is. Yeah. One of our last remaining local news.
Hard-hitting local journalism.
Yes, exactly.
Do these school-based health centers get charged rent by the DOE?
I'm sorry?
Did these school-based health centers get charged rent or like a fee to be in the school itself?
I doubt it.
Yeah, I don't think
So it's just free for them to be there? So I guess is the financial burden just the providers and the care they provide?
That's my understanding. I mean, PS11 has the space, and I believe they pay all the utilities. I don't believe there are other costs. I mean, I don't know, again, how much they get reimbursed per student, depending on Medicaid or private insurance. But yeah, I mean, that's a good question.
So the reason I'm asking that is, if that's the financial burden, really, they get charged free rent or they don't get charged rent at all, is it possible during non-school hours they can open it up to the public and get more insurance revenue that way? The same as for a location?
I mean, I will say that school security has become incredibly tight. Like, I mean, even as a parent, it's like a fortress. We all have to have IDs. I mean, as a practical matter, especially because they have after school in the building, it's a great idea, but I don't think they would be able to do that. And especially not during the school day. So I think it would be somewhat impractical, but I do think, it is possible that they could more aggressively seek, revenue streams from the Medicaid insurance streams. Again, I don't know, but I'm just speculating. And certainly, you know, PS11 again, like wants to help fill in gaps if there are from a provider. So we're well aware of the, you know, the situation.
And when you say like outfitted, do they have like imaging, like x-ray equipment, or is it just like examination tables or? what's actually-
They don't have x-rays, but they do have examination tables. I mean, it looks like a public school health clinic, but it is actually somewhat built out. I mean, they can provide real services there. And it's been a big point of pride for the school. And especially again, as immigrant families have come in and not had any interface with the US health system, it's been really fantastic for homeless kids, what have you. It's been really a great resource.
And when I mean the public, I don't mean like adults, I mean like just any kid from the city is allowed to go to this clinic?
No,
Or
it's
is it just-
again, I think it's
PS11, right.
it's also a security issue, and frankly, the needs are enough
Yeah.
with the PS11 students that there's enough, you know, in theory, we should keep them busy enough on our own. And it just, again, wouldn't work out with the security because remember, it's an elementary school. So they have to be able to get there. Someone has to consent. There's a lot of things that have to happen with them showing up.
So it's only open to PS11 students,
Right.
this clinic?
Yeah.
Yes.
So then, even if PS33 was successful in getting this center, that wouldn't help the PS11 students?
I don't think so. I mean, again, for security reasons, I highly doubt that PS33 wants other members of other school communities coming through. I just think it's again, security, but yeah, it probably wouldn't help the PS11 community very much. I mean, I'm thrilled for PS33. All kids need healthcare, but no, it doesn't really work that way, unfortunately.
Have they ever pursued funding for like a mobile clinic, like Department of Health has, on a bus, like the shuttle?
They do have that. They do have a mobile clinic, and actually, it's in Chelsea, from what I understand, pretty often around.
So-
Chelsea.
Does that mobile clinic have the same capability as that room in that school?
I don't know.
Well, some of it is also the mental health services, right? They need to be consistent. You need to have privacy. So some of the services, mobile vans are great for a lot of things, but there are some services that they just don't make sense for. So, I mean, it depends. I mean, look, always more care is better, but sometimes you need the right place for the right care.
Yeah. Are there any other questions from the committee? Kara, we really appreciate you coming in and speaking on this. This is a major disruption, and I'm very sorry to hear the way that this was rolled out. We're here to help in any way to help make sure there's no further major disruptions with the nurse that you currently have, and it would be great to know that you're in good hands with your nurse that you currently have. It's great that that's working out so far. But you raise a good point in terms of making sure Ryan Health continues to stay in the schools where they are and making sure that there's transparency and good communication moving forward. So as a committee, we should think about, our next steps, and if we want to have a follow-up conversation with Ryan Health and talk about, their operations at Park West High School and their other clinic. Well, I think we should stay focused on the schools because that's the mandate of our committee. But we should, think about that for future conversations.
Thank you so much, Carol. We really appreciate it.
And
Thank
Carl.
you. And thanks, Carl, and to Eric for being such great advocates.
Great.
Thank
Have
you
a
all.
great
Good to
night.
see
Thank you,
everyone.
Carl.
Take care. Bye.
Okay,
Agenda item here.
right. So next we have Megan from Take Two Media. Megan, can you hear us?
There we go. Hi, guys.
Hi, Megan. Nice to see you. How are you?
Nice to see you too. Thank you so much for having me. So I guess maybe do you want to just tell me a little bit about the audience I'm speaking to, because that'll sort of inform what I talk about, and I also don't want to be redundant in case some of you already know what we're up to. So
Yeah, so we don't know anything about what you're up to, so give us the full spiel.
Okay.
I will say, I have a student at PS 111, and Megan was there with some of their teen ambassadors talking about social media, cell phone use policy, how can school communities come together to create some sort of consensus about how they would like to handle cell phones within schools. We know this is a very big topic that the Department of Education is currently facing. So we thought it would be useful to have Megan come in. And so Megan, you are with members of Community Board 4, and some of us have students in the public school system. We're all very passionate about making sure our students have access to, wonderful education and learning more about the work that you all do to make that happen. So
All right, well,
I'll just turn it over to you.
then I'm gonna try to make this as short and sweet as possible, but with giving you all the information. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen with you guys. I wanna make sure you can get my sound going here, optimize for video. Look, I still remember how to use Zoom. Okay, so we are Take Two Film Academy. We have a nonprofit arm called the Take Two Media Initiative. Can you guys see my screen okay?
Yeah, Megan, your screen is, it's all black, so it's, I don't think
That's
it's
not
fully
good.
sharing.
All right, so let's try this again. Stop sharing. Oh, and now my computer's giving me the spinning beach ball of death. Hold on. Oh dear.
Never good.
Nope, never good. You know what?
Maybe
I might.
If you want to send me an email with your deck, I can share it on mine if that's helpful.
Let me just close out of this and see if this. Yeah,
It looks
I'm.
like she's frozen.
I'm frozen. I'm gonna rejoin. Is that okay? Can you guys hear me okay? All right, let me rejoin and see what happens here. Yeah, I'm in a bad place. Hold on. Let's quit.
Need a vote on? I moved to not have me draft what I'm.
Like social events, you get out when getting out of free with like drafting letters. You can make a motion without having to draft it. That's a great insight. Right.
Like a raffle.
Right, yeah,
Raffle,
exactly.
yeah.
That's what
Hello, we see you.
Hold on.
Can't hear you. We never hear.
All right, let's try this one more
Okay.
time. And if it doesn't work, then we will, I'll just talk. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, great. I'll just minimize all this junk. Okay, so we are a film school for kids. So Take Two Film Academy, we do project-based learning by integrating filmmaking and media literacy into schools. How we work, we have a contract with the Department of Education to deliver this work. We work with K through 12 population, and I'm going to just share with you a short 2-minute video that really articulates our work better than me being able to communicate it with you.
Take Two Film Academy makes media literacy engaging and fun for students, parents, and educators. We offer filmmaking residencies in school and after school, professional workshops for parents and teachers, and custom video production for schools or initiatives. In our residencies, teaching artists collaborate with schools to connect media literacy and filmmaking to existing curriculum. Essays are transformed into documentaries, and fictional writing becomes narrative or animated videos. Our residencies employ universal design for learning and project-based learning. We guide students through script writing, fact-checking, production, recording voiceovers, and editing. By the end, students have the tools to responsibly analyze, create, and consume media. Our professional learning workshops help parents, teachers, and students navigate the ever-changing landscape of social media, AI, and the effects they have on our youth. We provide actionable steps to support students as digital citizens. Finally, we create custom videos for schools and administrators. Our team of professional filmmakers can help you communicate goals and garner excitement for your school, new programs, or initiatives. Custom videos can even be produced with the help of students, giving them career readiness and the practical skills for tomorrow.
Day 2 is the best 2 weeks of the school year because the kids are very excited to take their ideas and put them onto the big screen.
So by bringing Take 2 and media literacy into the classroom, our students had fun, they were engaged, the quality of instruction was great. It just was an overall great experience.
Something that I love about working with Take 2, thinking about new ways to use technology with our students has really brought excitement to my career. Our kids are using technology. They know how to get onto social media. And so using it in a positive way is really going to make our students stronger and make our school community stronger.
For all your media needs, look no further than Take 2 Film Academy.
Okay, so that's kind of like our main, our main work. But this year we started to do some work with training high school students in how to become media ambassadors, where we're training them in media literacy and media well-being, and we're bringing them to schools. We were just actually at PS 11 last week. We went to PS 111, and we're sort of bringing these kids, these high school students out to help them train parents and young people about how to responsibly consume media and how and if and when to get smartphones. So this is again just like a short little video of the work that the ambassador program's doing.
My generation is known as the anxious generation, where basically like everyone's on their phone, and we've come this week to start to change that and change people's perspectives on us and the next generation.
Our generation has grown up with a phone-based childhood, and because of that, we want to ensure that younger generations grow up off technology, and that's why this work is so important.
We gathered some of the brightest minds in media literacy, media wellness, and media systems to educate a small group of students in New York City. They learned about the effects and the mechanisms that control our media diets and how we can manage our media instead of letting it manage us.
This week, we worked on making regulations on smartphones and social media, and when kids should get smartphones, when they should get social media, and how much they should be allowed to use that. So the goal is to go to elementary schools and talk to parents about making an agreement on when those kids should get phones at a certain age and when they should get social media.
The work that we're going to be doing this week is going to help my generation and future generations to come by ensuring that we are on a safe online world.
What we've done this week in Take 2 will not only protect us, but create a happier and safer society against the detrimental effects of social media and phone usage.
For future generations, like their mental health will improve. They can be kids and just play outside and not have to worry about what's going on a screen all the time. Together, we can inspire, change,
And ensure
a brighter,
healthier society
for future generations.
for future generations.
for future generations.
Para generaciones en el futuro.
We are media ambassadors.
All right, so yeah, those are our main programs. The nonprofit Take 2 Media Initiative is sort of, spearheading the ambassador program, where our goal is to train media ambassadors in every single district in New York City and get them to deliver talks to not just parents, but hopefully elementary school students, so that they feel that they can have agency around their media systems, and how their media systems are not necessarily designed to make us be informed, but they're designed to keep our attention. So, we're working on so many facets of the media spectrum, from doing project-based learning where we're helping, kids understand when you understand how to make something and you connect it to a unit of study, or you connect it to something you're learning in social studies, ELA, or science, it actually gives you higher levels of literacy around that. Just another side note, I wrote a book called The Third Dimension of Literacy, which is how do we integrate filmmaking and media literacy throughout our Common Core. And that's it. So I try to do it as quickly as I could. I hope that it gave you all the information you needed, and happy to answer any questions, or if you guys have any thoughts or about it, I'm happy to field that.
Thank you, Megan. I just have one question. Could you talk a little bit about when you're going into the schools? So when you were at PS 111 and, sort of that conversation that you have, and like how that plays out in terms of coming to like a school agreement in terms of cell phone use policy, and just if you could just talk a little bit about
Sure.
that.
So, so we train these students, this like first cohort of ambassadors this August, and we've now done, I want to say, like 5 talks to different parent communities. As you can imagine, it's gotten better and better and better as we've done more and more of these talks. I think the students feel a lot more confident with the subject and are fielding the questions and concerns of the parents in a really wonderful and professional way. We do an agreement with the parents on site, okay, like we have, we do like a poll where, after they've learned everything the ambassadors kind of present to them, we do a poll where like, all right, so what do you as a school community want to focus on when it comes to media? And some are focusing on just technology, want to focus on tech and devices. Some are really interested in social media. Some people are looking at games. So like we're sort of getting a test about like where the parents are sort of feeling the real pain point is for their community. Then we get them to sort of look at like, okay, so when do you guys want to agree as a community to give your kid a smartphone? Because as we talk about during the talk, like giving, a smartphone to a young person is sort of giving them the keys to the entire internet. And while, there's sort of been this almost just like natural progression, like say you're as a parent, your phone, you want to get a new phone. So you'll just hand your smartphone over to your child and get a new phone. And we're sort of asking families to be like, is that really the smartest thing to be doing for your child, around giving them all this access to all these apps and all these things. And then it's also like, okay, when do you guys as a community want to agree to give your kids social media? And it's been funny because some schools have been very like, okay, like, they all thought 6th grade was like, a good time. And then we go to another school and they're like, no, we need to wait till like 10th grade or 11th grade to give social media. So we're really learning a lot through this whole process and seeing just like different communities have different things that they want to focus on. They have different things that they like, different ages that they want to, put those numbers in. But it's definitely been exciting to see these parents have these conversations. I think at the end of the day, like while we do want an agreement that they can pass around in their community, I think it's just an important conversation that should be had. And I think it's just so powerful when it comes from the voice of a teenager versus an adult,
Thanks, Megan.
Yeah.
Questions?
My name is Ella. I have a 15-year-old and a 11-year-old, and I think digital media literacy, is that a curriculum that is mandated in, I would like every grade starting from like, I don't know, 4th or 5th grade in public schools?
Not that I know of.
I don't think it's mandated now.
I think there are laws and some policies that are trying to be passed around it. Whether it's actually being put in and actionable is a whole nother story. I mean, Typically this would be like the job position of the librarian, within a school. But again, you'd have to integrate it, right? So like, how do you integrate media literacy? And in my view, you can integrate it in every subject, because it is basically like just another dimension of literacy that we need to be kind of integrating into all disciplines.
Do
But
we have an update on like where the cell phone bans are with Mayor Adams and the new?
Yeah, I think that plan was dropped, or at least postponed for now, so we don't have any further
Nothing for at least
information on it.
this year.
Yes.
no, I think the old chancellor was really excited about it. And I mean, obviously there was a lot of excitement post the Jonathan Haidt book, the Anxious Generation. And our old previous chancellor was also, really excited about that. I mean, we had a huge argument breakout with two parents during I think it was our meeting at 111. One parent was like, I do not want, my kid to not have a cell phone in school. And another parent was like, and this is a national conversation. My personal stance is that, schools would do a lot better and could handle crisis situation better without the kids being involved, calling their parents, getting their parents involved. But I wasn't about to like go toe to toe with this parent. I was just like, this is a national conversation. This is something great you want to talk about and investigate as a community. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff going on around it, but there's just not a lot of action being taken. So the thing that we're really excited about is like these young people, these are high school students, like they're the ones taking action and they're the ones that have been most affected by it. And one of the analogies I use is like all of us, like I was in college when Facebook came on the scene, so we've been like slowly, we were like frogs in a boiling water, the water just keeps getting turned up and turned up and turned up. And finally now we're all like, oh my gosh, we're burning ourselves. But we're all also addicts. So I tell the kids, I'm like, you're talking to a room full of addicts. So you got to like also recognize that too. Like we all have our issues around our media use, and we all have very low media literacy skills in our country. So how do we combat that, and be the example, etc., like the hard stuff.
I'm just curious, I'm really happy that you have these sort of contracts with the parents, because as our superintendent said, a lot of it's, the parents, they're texting and calling the kids during the day when they know that their children are in class. So, what is the reception that you're getting from parents? Did you get maybe half of them to sign this contract, or what was it like?
Yeah, it's really challenging. Parents are really busy, and a lot of parents are not like they want to be involved in, like, okay, it's just an example. So we went to a school in District 8, and this is a school that, I've got a great relationship with. I know the principal really well. The principal's like, we're gonna work to get people to come to this talk. How many people do you think showed up?
Yeah.
Like we had 5 people show up, and 2 of them were teachers in the school that had kids there. So, I think it's what we're noticing, what we're discovering is that there are schools in New York City, obviously, like, so then we went to PS 11, and Bob, the principal there, was like, Megan, I'm going to work. I'm going to get people there. And he's like, all right, we'll see how many people come. And we have like 30 or 40 parents show up. And he even looks at me like, this is not a lot. Like, we should have more people here, And I was like, okay. So I think like we're running into when we want this to be equitable. We want this to be like, we want families to be involved in the process of creating these agreements together. But what we're noticing is that there are certain communities where they will do that, and there's majority of communities that will not do that, or they just not because they don't want to. It's like, I think there's this feeling of time constraint around their commitments and whatnot. So that's why we're sort of thinking maybe the best thing to do is in those situations is not to go to the parents, but go directly to the kids. So like have these teens talking to elementary school kids and having that be the conversation, because we might not be able to get the parents. We might not be able to you know, get them to agree to something, but if the kids can have agency around it, maybe there could be something that we can move the needle there, you know?
Great idea.
Yeah, I mean, the kids are great educators in the house, like to say, they
Yeah.
bring a lot of their learning home, and that's what makes it so great.
Yeah, and they'll listen to their peers as opposed
Yeah.
to maybe their parents. So.
They'll listen to some cool high school students that,
Yeah.
you know, so I think that, you know, young people have always been the change makers. If we look at like the history of recycling and smoking and all, you know, all the things where it's like been a habit, like these, you know, corporations are doing something that makes them money. It's not gonna, they're not going to change their habits, right? But it really does require a youthful driven energy that will make change. So I hope like my dream is that we get these ambassadors all over the city, and they're just out there being like little Mormons running around and, you know, teaching them to spreading the gospel.
So
Get
part
them
of the reason
uniforms,
why, yeah,
2 by 2.
you know, I wanted you to come this evening is because you are having the conversation, and it doesn't seem like, you know, the policy is moving anytime soon. But that shouldn't stop the work from happening in terms of educating school communities about media literacy, and because you're out there doing the work, wanted to make sure, you know, you came here and had a chance to talk about all the good work that you're doing. I think if there are things that our board can do to be helpful, whether that's getting more teen ambassadors, like if there's like if you have an application that you send out, or you know, if there's something that we could send to high schools, that would be one part of it. Or if there's just to get the word out about the workshops and getting into more schools. I think a lot of PTAs hopefully get our newsletter, and if there's something we could put out to get PTAs to respond to you and say, hey, we're interested in learning more, so they can connect with you directly to get to their school and hopefully into an actual classroom. You know, we should think about ways to kind of get you into more.
Yeah, if you guys have any ins, like I'm thinking for the summer, like if we could either, like if you have ins with SYEP, like the Student Youth Employment Program, like if we could pay these like pay to train them and pay these ambassadors so that then we have maybe we do like 10 trainings this summer. We have like 10 cohorts happening. Then we could it could really scale up in the fall. So, and then if you have anybody who's, you know, that cares about this work and wants to fund it, that would be amazing too, because that's where we're at right now. So that's it.
Sure. Well, let's stay in touch, Megan.
Very good.
And if there's any other schools that we can connect you with, we will. And, you know, appreciate your time this evening to talk about the work that you're doing.
No, thank you guys. And thanks for listening, and we'll see what happens. Yeah. All right. Have a good evening, everyone. Get home safe. Bye.
So that was our last presentation. I think we're just on any new or old business. Anything?
I do have one question, so I guess Chelsea Ryan is going to look into PS 33. But is there a possibility to do an amendment to our EIS statement? I mean, even if, I don't know what's going to happen with PS 33, but it would be nice to have some sort of medical team available with the potential demolition of these 2 campuses, I guess is my point. And the air quality and all of that. I'm just thinking about the students at PS 11. They're literally right adjacent. I mean, they are in one of the campuses.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I'm trying to.
Yes.
So you're
right,
saying, you were
right.
talking about, and commenting on the draft scope.
Yeah.
Draft scope.
Right. Because we've already talked about the potential health risks, mental health risks. We did talk about that, but we never sort of said, oh, well, it's a possibility that maybe Ryan could be here and maybe they could get funds for that. I don't know.
You, at this stage, I mean, I think what would be a cleaner way of doing it is if you guys feel there needs to be advocacy just to make sure that Ryan gets into PS33, right? That's in its own sense, just a letter on it, or some sort of statement on that. At this stage of that process, we're not making you wouldn't be making direct recommendations on a mitigation, I guess. And if you were, you would be kind of broader in scope, I guess, in saying, I gotta think about it, but like, I don't think we would naturally be saying, oh, you need to put Ryan Health Center into PS33 to
Right.
mitigate potential stuff, to potential impacts on the students from the construction. I think that's the next thing. That's the next stage. I think, so I think that's coming up. But I think in the meantime, I think you would want to be saying as a committee, you know, with this change, that, you know, we endorse the idea that they would be going into PS33 for all these reasons. But one of them being the potential, the impact that the construction, the future construction would have on the school.
I mean, it seems like
you'd be on record for that, and then the next stage would be using that as that, as you're saying, going into negotiations, right?
I mean, it seems like we should probably get PS33.
Yeah, we should give them,
Because who knows what
absolutely.
they have,
Yes,
what they don't have,
right,
what they need.
absolutely.
So I would say we should, you know, talk about it.
Yes, and they may not, you know, qualify for the threshold anyway.
Right.
So that would be, so, yeah, we have to see. Okay.
Okay, so.
Maybe we can set something up with PS33, right, and just an offline conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
And then you report that back out here, and then ask to make a decision.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
I was thinking, I mean, I have no like facts on this, but I mean, if there's a space available at 11. Right, it sounds like there's a facility at 11, and we just need to have, I like the idea of us exploring who could be there.
Right.
Right, and I was thinking if the part of the population, part of the need is the newer population, the migrant population, then like, I don't know, maybe the idea of health and hospitals, you know? I mean, they've, you know, they're in our district already because of the Watson, right, the Herc site. Like, you know, I'm assuming a good portion of their families from the Watson and or from the Row. Maybe, you know, go to 11, maybe not, I don't know, but maybe that's a replacement. And they're clearly much, you know, more significant and, you know, I mean, of an operation, robust operation that Brian, you know, they're you know, they're much more of a bigger operations.
So this could be, so as a committee, we definitely want to focus on, you know, mental health services, healthcare in our schools, what that looks like. So this could be a conversation that we have with Ryan, with H&H, get sort of like a holistic picture of what's going on, so we can be a little more informed about what's possible, what's currently happening. But I think we've talked about doing like something like a public forum around some of the issues.
Yes, exactly, that's
So,
right, yeah.
I'm wondering if it makes sense, so we should think about this as a
Right.
committee and what kind of conversations we all would like to have to learn more about this, but I think that's an important point, Jesse, in like, you know, what are those alternatives? What does that
Kara
look
said
like?
it's
And they're
looking
looking
at
into it,
partnerships,
and
yes,
they're
so
looking
that
into
may
it.
be something that they've considered, so you know, we can follow up with them, you know, just an email and see.
I think, Matt, to your point about, like, what is the current mental health support in place right now for high school students or middle school students? I think having, is there a psychologist that comes in at least part-time? That the kids have access to if they want to, that's possibly bilingual or. I think this would be really great to understand, like, what is the current state?
Yeah. Yeah, something that our board has been on the record for quite some time in terms of getting social workers, making sure that they're bilingual permanently in our schools, but certainly we know it's not easy. It's a challenge to not only get them in, but then to get them to stay. Once they're there.
I think we have one right now, and one elementary school. The high schools, it's been very difficult to sort of break in and get real information about what's going on. We just have not had success, and if anybody has any recommendations on how to do that, but literally for years, remember how we used to divide up the list and you know, when it was budget time and trying to make these, do these emails or these calls, and we just don't get anywhere, and the superintendent for the high schools, there's one superintendent for all of Manhattan. And so you can imagine the volume, and this person like started about 2 years ago, we did have one call with him, but he had just started, didn't really know much about the needs of our high schools in our district, which we have 20. And the other challenge is that with our elementary schools, all the principals are friends. It's a, you know, they share resources, we're all in the same area. The goals are kind of the same because they all fit under the general District 2 goals. The superintendent meets with them, you know, the 5 of them on a regular basis. But the high schools, there are 20 high schools, they all have different, you know, specialties, different forms of study, so they don't have that community that the elementary schools do, and we only have 3 middle schools, by the way, so I'm not really talking about them, but so it's been really hard for us to sort of get in. I think we had success in one school, we were able to help them get an elevator, and that was huge, because that was like $1 million project or something, and they're just letter writing and so many calls and meeting streamers offers and all. It finally happened, and that was a big win. That was like 2 years ago or something. And the reason why that happened really was because the assistant principal there was so on the case. Like he really was just emailing and just doing everything he can, finding all these contacts and keeping us in the loop, and we were sharing information with him. So it really worked out. Of course, he's not there anymore. He's moved on. But sometimes that's what it takes, is to have somebody in the school, and that has been really a challenge.
And Ryan Health is in Park West High School, so that might be an entry point, because then they could communicate to other high schools. So I think as a next step, we should think about having a conversation with Ryan Health and take a look at where they currently are in our district, and maybe that can open up some other doors to other schools, and find out what they need and what they don't have, so. So we can follow up, see if we can get that on an agenda. Is there anything else?
I just had a point to what, piggybacking off of what Ella said earlier about us having so many organizations come in and potentially doing a quarterly newsletter. Also, I was wondering if there's space on the CB4 website under resources where we could have some type of database where we keep these organizations, like a ACES resources link, where we can link all of these different organizations and kind of what their mission statement is for anyone that's interested.
So we do have a resources page, so I'm completely open to anybody taking a look at that resources page.
I literally just pulled it.
And making suggestions. I mean, in terms of, you should take a look at it. Everybody should take a look at it and wanna make updates, suggestions, recommendations. That, you know, please do. Like, yeah, that's all good. You know, I don't think anybody knows it exists. We try to keep it up to date. But we also try to keep it bare bones, because things do change so much. You know, when I first got this job, it had like people's, you know, individual people that work at these organizations, phone numbers and names. It's like, that's gonna change every 6 months. And so we really brought it down to the bare bones, but I'm happy to take a look at it. And I do think from an arts and culture perspective, it probably is not as robust as it should be, especially since all of the work that this committee has been doing as of late with new leadership. And so, and that's great. And so, you know, we should definitely kind of beef that up if we want to. The schools, I think, is pretty standard. It's got the majority of, I mean, it's got all the public schools, it's got, I think, most of the educational stuff, but again, if there's stuff that's missing, or that's stuff that's newer, that we certainly have not done it, I don't think we've done a rehaul of it overall, probably like right before COVID. So it probably could use it, for sure. And I will say, why I got rehauled then was because I had a third staffer. And I don't have a third staffer right now. So I'm Janine is the master and commander of the website, but it's easy enough to just, if you guys put something together and say, here's what we wanna add. You know, she can do that, or I can do that with her and stuff like that, so that's completely fine. And any other ideas on the website, arts and culture of this committee in general, please feel free to.
Yeah, it'd be great to link to different organizations that have come in, especially if they have a real, presence.
Yeah, that's certainly, like, we don't have that, so
Yeah.
like, if we wanna start creating that, like a database like that.
Yeah.
That's certainly the idea.
And then the quarterly newsletter, anyone wants to work on that? I see a team over there.
A question about the newsletter, how would that be distributed?
How's our current newsletter distributed?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we work off of a system called vertical response. And it's people sign up and, and that's how it's distributed. It's an newsletter. It goes on our Twitter and it goes on our Facebook. And so we do it twice a month. We currently do it twice a month.
Yeah, it gets emailed out. Right?
Yeah, but through the vertical. Right, so like it's an email, if you're signed up for a vertical response, that's how it goes out.
And you would just sign up through the website?
Yeah, you can sign up through our website, yeah. But you guys are already all signed up, right? So I don't have to worry. So, no, but so yeah, so we're going on twice a month and whatever comes through our, all multiple ways of, if you guys have something you guys want on there. I mean, we're a government agency, so we're not doing things for cost, right? We're not selling tickets, even discounted tickets, we're not doing individual. We try very hard to keep it to nonprofits. And we're not like advertising specific companies, for-profit companies like that. There's all the kind of basic rules around it, but as you see it coming out, you'll see it's got everything. I mean, Janine does an amazing job. I will say this. I could not keep track of everything that she she's got housing, she's got health, she's got, and anything that comes to us on arts and culture. We did do a blast that included jazz generations. They're not the student program stuff, but the KEDA program, because they do all these basically free gigs in our district on all these venues, and so but yeah, if you wanted to do an education focused either way, and maybe this is a way to start it, because I know maybe the concept of doing solely an entire newsletter on education might seem a lot, but certainly maybe having education, whatever you call it, section, right? And then that starts the ball rolling, and then you can grow from there, if it need be.
Yeah. So we'll take a look at the resource page. If you have recommendations, reach out, let Jesse know, let one of us know, but that's great. Be good to update that for sure. All right, that's it. Motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, right, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Excellent.